live. You stand up at 3, 2
Hey,
seconds.
there
Oh
we
my
go.
goodness.
We're live now. Hey, everybody. Dan
Yes.
and Kris here. Oh my gosh, we're gonna wait for you guys to log on. By the way, why don't you write your where you're from, where you're Facebooking in from, and we'd love to see if there's a wide area, a wide net that people are logging in from.
Yes.
So it's
Well,
good
you
to
know,
see.
it's early for the West Coast, right? It's 7 o'clock on the West Coast, but a lot of my peeps are on the East Coast, so some of them might be a little
Peter
bit late.
Brophy. I don't know if he's on the road still, but good to see. Oh, Syracuse, New York. Oh, it's late. Thank you for
How are you gonna
staying up,
see
Susan.
these? I haven't seen any of them, but that's okay. I'm gonna just trust that they're there, Dan.
Folsom, Citrus Heights, all over Roseville. Man, guys, it's so good to see you tonight. We're excited. It's kind of a cool follow-up to the retreat. By the way, if you're just logging on and a friend told you about this, I'm Dan Houk. I'm actually one of the pastors at Bayside Church and co-author of the book Intentional Relationships for Singles. And this is
Kris Swiatocho. And I am super excited. I have been in Sacramento as well as Santa Rosa, Lake Tahoe for our big retreat that we just got through doing for the past couple weeks. And I have loved meeting so many of you. I got some extra time with them, Dan. I got to meet with a few in people's homes. And I got to go to Santa Rosa to that campus and was just so encouraged to meet so many of you, to hear your stories, hear your heart, hear what God's doing. And I just love it. I could meet with a different group every night. I just love it.
Yep, I know you can. And I think it's cool that you have gotten a chance to stay at a lot of the singles' houses. A lot of the singles have opened their homes to you, which is wonderful, and hosted events, which is very cool. So thank you. Kudos to you guys out there who have done that. It's a huge help.
Well, and you know, the thing is too, it also helps, you know, the ministry that I do, which is both Dan and I do this ministry together, which is intentional relationships. But I also have another ministry called the Singles Network, in which I help churches start and grow primarily singles ministry. So when you let me stay in your home, you're really helping me so I can keep doing what I'm doing because of the type of ministry I am. So thank you for those that have done that, have fed me. Like, Dan, let me tell you, I gave them a list. Like I said, yeah, like cheese and avocados and Diet Mountain Dew. And like, I got those everywhere I went. So that was so much fun. And
it's a big, avocados are rare where you're from in North Carolina.
They're not rare.
Okay, never mind.
They come from California, so
they do.
But we are the co-authors of Intentional Relationships for Singles, which is a 12-week Bible study. Design. It takes you everywhere from how our relationships fail to our identity, boundaries, conflict resolution, friendship, dating, with the goal of helping you in all of our relationships. Right, Dan?
That's right. And last weekend, not this recent one, but the one before, we had a huge retreat in Lake Tahoe, an intentional relationships retreat hosted by Bayside Church, which was awesome. And Kris and I got a chance to share with everybody. Dave Schaefer was up there with his incredible worship band. We had so many people who were serving in different ways, small group leaders. It was just a spirit-led, spirit-filled weekend. It was incredible.
Well, and because this is what I do around the country, I travel everywhere. There's very few retreats left, and there's very few churches that have singles ministries. Most all singles ministries run by volunteers, and their groups are small. Yeah. So to see that Bayside still supports singles, to see Dave working so hard, the team working so hard, and then just to see what was pulled off at Lake Tahoe was amazing. And so, if you're watching this and you go to Bayside, occasionally send an email saying, this is how this ministry has changed my life. This is how it's making me strong as a Christian. Thank you that you have what you have. If you're in a church that doesn't have a singles ministry or you want to start one, please contact me. I would love to help you. But even if your ministry is small, Dan, right? Even if it's 20 people, 10 people, don't forget about those that lead it. Don't forget about those that have poured into it, or churches that maybe sponsor it, because we need to continue to support our singles ministries and our pastors so they continue to do singles ministry so that lives can continue to change. Amen?
Amen. And I want to give a big shout out to Dave Schaefer too. He's one of my closest friends, and he's also the leader of the singles ministry there at Bayside. And they're off the campus. That's why we're doing this tonight via Zoom/live feed. But Dave wants to have something for everybody continuously. The next time the campus opens up is going to be August 12th. So it'll be an on-site service. Be sure to do that. There's also, they're going to the River Cats. They're going to a baseball game, and that's a lot of fun. So you can sign up for that as well. But get connected in community, especially if you're around Bayside Church and you have that opportunity. It's phenomenal that they have a singles ministry that they do.
Yep. And we've got some things in the chat. I think Rich is going to put in there our web address. We definitely want you to check out our website. Our Facebook page too is where we always put up-to-date things that happen or go on. We love hearing from you, as well as our YouTube channel, which has additional information. Our website also has our leader's guide for those of you who are like, I'd like to do this study. I would like to lead this study, but I don't know exactly what I'm supposed to be doing. So we have had, what's really great is that we've had our own online study that's gone on. And several of you watching this were in the study. Love for you to put in the chat that you were in the study, because somebody may be watching this that says, I want to do the study, but I'm afraid. I don't know what to do, or maybe I'm not a teacher. I just want to be in a study. And maybe you live close to the Bayside Church area, or the one in Santa Rosa or Folsom, or maybe you're in another city. And guess what? They're starting to pop up everywhere. And we're starting to see people are going to be doing this study in the fall. So email me if I can find out if there's one in your area. I'll definitely connect you, or one that may be online.
That's right. And I see some people posting about tacos. What about tacos? That was Tuesday. You missed it. But there's always next Tuesday for Taco Tuesday. Kris she had a gathering. She hosted a gathering. And did you guys have tacos?
We did.
Okay, that's good.
It was lovely. Well, and then because of Kris Swiatocho, of course. And so it was a lot of fun. Karen Percy did a wonderful job. She had just a spread of food. People brought desserts, and we just had great fellowship, great learning. A lot of the team at the main campus was there. So I got to hear what God is doing and the changes, and and just how they were encouraged from the weekend, and just kind of like the next step in ministry, because COVID has been and so people are ready to get out, and they're ready to minister and make changes. And so I'm excited, even for myself, for the next year of seeing what God's going to do.
That's right. Hey, by the way, I see a couple people that are mentioning they were in our Zoom study. We did a 12-week study on the book, week for each chapter. And tonight, we're really going to do a deeper dive into chapter 10, which is intentional friendship. And I think it's going to be something everybody can walk away with a nugget that they can put into their relationships and help them. I hope you guys do. But we got a question for you. We're going to kind of throw it out there, and just be transparent. On a scale of 1 to 10, how intentional do you feel you are in your relationships? Not just dating, just all your relationships, friendships, everything. So just throw that out there. What do you think it is? A 5, a 10, an 8? 0? What scale of 1 to 10? Where do you think you are? Just go ahead and post it in the chat. We'll see what people say.
Another question is: do you find making friends easy, or is it sometimes difficult?
That's good. I like that.
Yeah.
So that we're getting a lot of numbers: 5, 10, 8, 7, 9. That's good. Good for you guys. So what about Kris's question? How easy is it to make friends? Easy, hard, moderate? Go ahead and put that in the chat as well.
Yeah. Oh, how about this next one, Dan? Read that one.
Do you think you can be friends with the opposite sex? Yes or no? Can you be friends?
Yes. I remember we were talking about that online with the study, and we got mixed reviews. There were mixed comments with that. And part of it has to do with our past. Part of it has to do with, we look at the opposite sex sometimes as only someone to date. And if you're only someone to date, well, then I would imagine you probably wouldn't be able to be friends. And so, it led to some good conversation. You'll have to let me know what's in the chat, Dan. My feed
a lot of yeses. A lot of people are saying yes. you can have a opposite sex relationship, friendship. So that's good to see. Yeah, but I think we're all over. I think most people are somewhat intentional to very intentional in their relationships. That's cool to see too.
Well, what
about that last question? Go ahead.
Oh, you want me to skip to the next one? Is this, how about dating? Do you find it easy to get a date or challenging? Some of you are
easy
going,
or challenging?
What's a date? Is that, what is a date again?
Date. You're talking about the fruit.
You and you go like, what is it?
If you go to the dried fruit aisle, then you can get a date.
Is it just hanging out? You know, what is a date, right? What are some answers we're getting? Any answers come through?
Yeah, we're getting challenging, not easy. Yeah. Challenging, very challenging. Okay, I think impossible. So yes, challenging to impossible. It seems to be the spectrum that we're on. Well, you know, I agree. I think the dating world today is way harder than it used to be. I don't think it was ever particularly easy, but I think just the world we live in today, it's become really difficult. There's a lot of cultural pressures on us. There's what we've learned. So that's why we wrote this study. Yeah. And do you want to share a little bit about the?
Well, I mean, here's some reasons. We found that most singles either had a hard time dating, you know, or the opposite. They were dating a lot and even online dating, but nobody they were dating, they found that they even wanted to keep, right? There wasn't a date worth keeping. I think that's the title of a book out there. There wasn't a date worth keeping. So they're either two extremes, and we felt like they needed something to help them close the gap.
Yep. Yeah, you know what? We also found that a lot of singles struggled with who they are, their identity, or struggle with some of the things that happened in their past. And it was very difficult to get past it, and it impacted their relationships, or maybe not applying what they'd learned from the past. Now, I've done that before where I've learned something, yet I'm in a relationship, I'm making the same mistakes I know not to do. I don't know if anybody's been there, but that's another reason.
Well, and here's the thing, it's easy just to stay where we are. You know, we know we're drawn to this type of person, and we find ourselves drawn. I remember, you know, when I was really young, I would draw men that would not commit to me. And I realized there was a pattern. I mean, it's going to get a little bit psychological here, but I had a birth father that never was there. And I couldn't believe that I was actually drawn to men that were like this. They wouldn't commit, wouldn't follow through. And then I went the extreme opposite. My stepdad was Mr. Reliable, Mr. There. And then I was, you know, then I went, well, maybe I should go after that guy. And then I said, God, maybe it just needs to be something in between, and it needs to be what you want it to be, because I don't seem to be very good at picking the right guy. Yeah. So I think that, you know, and here's the thing, guys, I would say that almost everybody wants to be married. 95%, 90%, whatever. It's a lot of people, right? Yeah. Or remarried. The issue is nobody wants to be alone, whatever that may look like. And because of this desire, we're praying and pleading and asking God, and we're, you know, watching a lot of Hallmark, right? And we're like, oh, you know, and we're just like, and I know guys are doing the same thing. I know some of you watching Hallmark. I know some of you bringing big old buckets of ice cream in front of Hallmark and boohooing, because God designed us in a certain way to not be alone. And so I know that you're out there praying, because of this desire, you know, well, let me back up a little bit. Well, I'm getting a little bit off the thing. But there's reasons behind why God has somebody. Right?
Yeah, I know, it's true. And if you look at, let's say you haven't had a lot of dating, but even you had a little bit of dating, you might identify with some of this. Maybe you missed what God had for you because of your unrealistic expectations. You know, maybe you had that massively long list of what you wanted in a guy. You know, he has to smell like sawdust, and he has to be between 32 and 33 and a half, and, you know, whatever it is. But you know, you find all these guys that just don't seem to fit into this narrow, high expectation you have. You know, that's possible one reason.
You're killing me. This is sawdust. But you know what? There is smells at Bath and Body. I was in Bath and Body Works the other day, and I couldn't believe how many men were in there getting like because they have a lot of men's fragrances, but
Yeah.
men want to smell good too. And they want, I guess soap or whatever. And some of you guys are like, but yeah, our expectations, I tell people, we never know what we want because we've not had it, but we definitely know what we don't want based on experience. And so a lot of times our expectations are just not realistic. We think they are, but the reality is we haven't really got that particular person, or because they're just probably perfect,
Yeah.
And so it's not realistic. And as you age up, things that used to be a big deal for me are just not as important. And things that I probably should have been a big deal when I was young have become very important. And so that's one of the things why we wanted this study, is that we wanted to help you have realistic expectations of what God, that would be God's expectations, right, Dan?
Yep, that's true. Yep, and then there's questions, right?
Yeah. Not asking the right questions or enough questions to get to know someone prior to dating them, preventing future heartache. I've shared this many times with you guys. I am not good at asking the second question. I'll ask the first one, but a lot of times I won't ask the second and the third because I'm afraid of what the answer will be. And the answer might be God telling me that this isn't the right person for me, but I really want somebody in my life really bad. So I might just overlook it.
Yes. Or how about this? I ask lots of questions when we're dating. Where do you want to go to the movies? Oh, you like sunsets too? You like breathing? You look for all the things that you think you might have in common, and that's your criteria rather than really getting to know who they are.
So you're like, oh, we have so much in common when it's all superficial. Oh, you like to eat? You like to sleep too? Oh,
I couldn't believe it. He liked going to restaurants. Could you believe that? Yeah, we all do. Yes. Or making assumptions. Sometimes we make assumptions about somebody because of what we've learned in the past or what we think they are without really going the next step and maybe letting them clarify and explain who they are. Sometimes we just, maybe it's a past experience we had or something we've had from childhood, and somebody does something and it just brings back a flood of memories. And we assume they're going to be a problem, and we really don't know them yet.
Right. It's like a trigger, right?
Yep. Right.
That ex-boyfriend or that ex-husband or wife, whatever, cheated on you. And now this new one, if he even saw somebody walk in, he goes, wow, you immediately go, oh, is he having an affair with her? Do you like her? Does she look better than me? And you just immediately jump to that. Or, whatever it is that you're struggling with that you haven't dealt with.
Yes.
Understand, not every guy is a jerk and not every woman is, a jerk. It's like, but of course, if you keep going out with the same kind of people, then that may be true, right?
Yeah.
But we do jump ahead, and it's not fair to put something on somebody and they haven't even done anything because of your own insecurities, right?
Mm-hmm.
Here's another one. Go ahead, Dan.
Positioning yourself, where are you in a place to meet someone? Why don't you explain a little bit about that?
Well, I just, here's the thing. We talked about this earlier this week. If you want to meet somebody, but you live in a really rural area, probably the odds are slim. And so if you really would, just like getting a good job, if you want to do where there are more options and more people to build friendships with, to build an intentional friendship with, then more likely you might have to move. You might have to get out of your house. You might have to get out of your PJs. Just a thought. You might have to put on some makeup. You might have to shave. You might have to smell good. You might have to go put yourself in places where you're serving God and you're around friends and you're going on hikes. Position yourself in places to where you can meet people.
Yeah.
What a thought, right?
Yep. Now, this might be something that affects some of you, maybe not others. I don't know if anybody's doing the online dating thing, but that can be a little overwhelming too, where you have so many, like the menu. It's like the Cheesecake Factory. You go, there's person after person after person after person. You're just overwhelmed. And you realize if you start doing online dating, you meet people, you realize this may take forever because it just doesn't seem like anybody that you're meeting, you're connecting with, or at least somebody that you would be interested in a longer term relationship. So that can really be discouraging too.
Yeah. I mean, you're meeting too many people, and it's like,
Yeah.
it's overwhelming, and you don't know which one you stood, and you're, and I'm gonna just tell you guys, I am not an online dating person. I don't want to say never, because, just as soon as you say never is when it happens. But I'm just telling you, I do not have time in my day to start conversations with 5 different guys and trying to remember who I said what to and when I said what to, and then to do it again the next day and the next day and the next day. That's just not my DNA. Some of you who can do that, props to you. I know people that have met online and they fell in love and got married, and it's been wonderful. But the majority of the people that have, it's not been a good experience, because I think we get ahead of God.
Yeah.
What do you think, Dan?
Yep.
You've counseled a lot of singles over the years, right?
Yep. I do think we can get ahead of a God a little bit. And sometimes we just try and drive things too fast. There's something we want, and God might be telling us to slow down. And we're like, shh, this is going really well, God, don't mess things up. So
we had to switch tree. I love it. Like when you go out with someone and then you're just sitting there waiting by the phone. It's just hysterical what we do. Or here's one that's really important, because we talk about this in the study, which is the dating cycle, which is that we date someone, and then after we're emotionally connected, psychologically, spiritually, whatever, then we want to be their best friend.
Yeah.
It's kind of backwards, right?
A little bit backwards, and sometimes hard to repair once you've gone down that road. So what's the situation? Maybe we should dive into this tonight.
Yep. I think so. So what's the solution, Dan?
Well, we have an idea that we believe strongly that it could reduce heartache, reduce the chances of rejection and confusion, just make a lot more clarity in your dating relationships or your friendships. And reduce the mistakes we make sometimes by dating someone that's not quite right for you. And that's what we call an intentional friendship. So I'm going to let Kris explain to you a little bit about what an intentional friendship is.
Yeah. So I think because as Christians, when you're young and you maybe weren't following the Lord, you dated for the flesh. When you dated, I dated all of my 20s, never really wanting to be married. And you're maybe told that, but I was just having fun. Well, we know there's no dating specifically in the Bible. There's either friendship or courtship or marriage. But as in our culture today, I find there's this pressure on you. You're supposed to be married. You're supposed to have that special person. And I'm thinking, well, how do I know who I want to marry when I don't even know if I want to date them? And how do I know if I want to date them? So God gave us this term called intentional friendship. You can call it whatever you want to call it, but basically it's just deeper friendship. It's the step between, hey, I see him at church occasionally. I saw him at the gym. He's out walking his dog. She's, in my small group, and dating. Okay. It's a space in between. And so it allows you to get to know somebody on a deeper level, that reduces that heartache, that reduces the chance of rejection, that reduces the chance of misunderstanding. And I just love it. I love it. Now I'm going to just say, if you're in a large church like Bayside, you're going to probably see some of the people more often. Between the small groups and the Thursday night and some of the social gatherings, and you might serve at church, you'll see a person more often. And in the old days, that's all it took, because you were around that person a lot. You already learned a lot about them. You learned their past. You learned about their finances. You learned how they treated people, how well they tipped, how they handled traffic. But even in a large church, that could be the opposite problem. We don't see each other as often as we should. And so when you're in a smaller area where there's no singles ministry, how are you supposed to build a friendship with someone and see them and know their life when you see them once every 6 months? So it's really, really difficult. That's why I believe God has given us intentional friendship. It is that space in between of that generic friendship and that point of deciding, I think this is somebody I want to date.
That's right. And you know what it is? Intentional friendship is a relationship where these are two people who haven't necessarily just met. They've had a little time to get to know each other. And there's some level of agreement to what they're doing, right? They're not going to start a dating relationship. It's not going to look like a dating relationship. There's not going to be hand holding and kissing and things like that. But there will be just getting to know each other, maybe asking little more probing questions, a little deeper questions, finding out who they really are, maybe in person or on the phone. I know Teresa and I, when we were getting to know each other, we did Facebook Messenger, and we were kind of going back and forth and asking questions about each other. And it was kind of interesting because even though I liked her at the time, I wasn't ready to jump in and have a dating relationship with her. Yeah, my daughter was just finishing high school, and like, there's the finish line. I'm almost done with kids, and she had 2 younger kids. I'm like, I don't want to jump back to the halfway point in the race and start again. So I wasn't interested in dating her at that point, but I thought she was an incredible person. There was an attraction, and so I was getting to know her, but we definitely had boundaries in place. And she said, I really didn't know you were fully interested in me until you were ready to date me, because she said sometimes that I wasn't super nice to her, and I was. I'm usually pretty nice, but she's also usually right. So anyway, so it's this period where you're asking questions, you're getting to know each other. At the end of our book, we actually have 650 questions, and we recommend that if the first or second time you're getting to know somebody, you wouldn't want to ask them their credit score, or about their if they've been in prison. Maybe you would, that question, but you don't want to get too personal with somebody right away. That might put you immediately in the friend zone. So you probably would be better off just getting to know somebody with some basic questions to start with, and then move to deeper ones as you get to know each other a little more. So it's different than a basic friendship. Why don't you tell them about a little bit more about it?
Yeah, it's faster than basic friendship, because I don't know when I'm going to see you again. But at the same time, it's slower than dating. And so it gives me, I can decide the kind of questions I want to ask you that are important to me. And you're allowed to then process those answers, but you're both in agreement. That's the key to this. It can't be like, well, I'm in an intentional relationship with him, he just didn't know it. No, I guess you could ask somebody a bunch of questions and they not know that's what it's for, but it might come across a little weird that you're asking one question after another and they're not asking any. So no, it's where you're both in agreement. You say, hey, I'd like to get to know you a little bit better. I really have enjoyed talking with you. Maybe we can have a cup of coffee, but it's not a date. And you have to clearly communicate that it's not a date. You would just like to get to know them better, either by calling, messenger, or having coffee with them, not dinner. Dinner could imply a date. And so here's the thing. Because you are communicating that you're just trying to build a friendship, you're not saying you're going to be, I'm not putting you in the friend zone, right, Dan? Because what's the friend zone communicate?
The friend zone is not the end zone.
Right.
The friend zone is a permanent place that people usually get put when somebody realizes I'm not interested for sure in anything more romantic with them. Yeah, Liz asked a good question. Liz, I'm going to get to your question in a minute. Go ahead, though, Kris. Did you want to finish, or I'm up? Okay. So
well, we wanted to ask the question, had anybody ever been in the friend zone, and how did it feel? Because here's the thing, intentional friendship is not the friend zone. It's not rejection. It's the opposite. So if I meet you and we're talking and I said, hey, I'd like to get to know you better. I would love to be an intentional friend. A guy might go, oh man, she's putting me in the friend zone. Well, forget that. I guess I'll never talk to her again. No. The friend zone is really a rejection. That's somebody that you're like, no, I don't see myself, and even wanted to be an intentional friend. But an intentional friend is that word intentional. I'm intentionally wanting to be your friend to get to know you, to see if I do want to date you. So you should look at it as, wow, it's not rejection, it's acceptance. And so we're both going to take the time to get to know each other, and it's a good thing. So, but I wanted to say, has anybody ever been put in that friend zone and probably didn't feel good? What do you put in the chat? Have you?
I don't know if anybody's put in the chat yet, but if you've ever been put in the friend zone, you can share if you were and how it felt to you. But one of the things we want to talk about how this works, and Liz, I'm going to get to your question about. She asked if you can. Is this supposed to be an intentional friendship with one person at a time only? And so the short answer is
in a minute. Yep. We're going to get to that.
Short answer is we'll get to that, but it's not. So first thing we would ask you to do with this is just really pray God's going to bring the right person into your life to have an intentional friendship. We believe that everything good starts with prayer. I think somebody said that earlier too. They really felt God had spoken to them about it.
Yeah.
And if you want intentional friendship, you're going to want to ask God, obviously, to be in your life with this. There's a great verse in Matthew 6:33. It says, "Seek first His kingdom and His righteousness, and all these things will be added to you." And these things are the things that we care about in life, right? So if we're putting God first, He's going to put us first as well. And sometimes we've had people ask too, what about women? Can they initiate these? Well, of course, it's a friendship. So it's fine for a woman to initiate. It's fine for a guy to initiate. But we want you guys to understand, though, this is it's something you can have with multiple people, and you can build friendships even if they don't go to the point where they become romantic relationships. You're going to have more friendships, more quality friendships.
Well, and let me kind of qualify a little bit. First of all, when we're talking about praying, we're talking about you also praying to be ready for this. I had one guy that went through it and said, you know what? I've realized I'm not even ready for an intentional friendship with anybody. I need to wait. There's some things I need to work on. There's some things that God is doing. I still need to make some decisions about my future. And I love that he was mature enough to go, why would I even start these with ladies when I can't date anybody right now? So I love it. And so I would say, make sure that you are ready. That's why we have 9 chapters prior to chapter 10, because we want you to work on yourself. We want you to know who you are. We want you to deal with all of your relationships in your life, your family, your friends, way before you get to chapter 10, because that's the chapter that's going to hopefully lead to someone special. And that could possibly be your spouse one day.
Right.
So here's a question that gets brought up a lot, or let me go back to the one that she asked. Initially, when you're meeting different guys or girls, you're just, having coffee with this one, texting with this one. They're all right in the beginning. But one of the ones that are probably watching tonight, that's kind of like, I think we're going to put her face on a poster on our website.
Yeah.
He had multiple lunches with different guys, and they all thought they were dates. And she had to say, no, these are I'm just getting to know you and building friendships. And some of them were like, oh, they wanted it to be a date. And she's like, I don't even know you. Why would I want to date? Because they date and then they build friendships. So she put those boundaries in place. Well, after having coffees and lunches and texting or whatever, one of them rose to the surface. One of them is somebody that she said, you know what, I really do want to spend more time with this person and get to know them better. So at that point in time, she said, I didn't have any more intentional friendships with any other guys. I just focused on that one for a period of time. And then now they're actually dating. Love that. And you have to decide when that is for you. Right, Dan?
Right. I mean, that's right.
So here's a topic a question gets asked to me. How do you bring up the topic of intentional friendship to someone you just met? Like, hey, how you doing? You're awful cute. Hey, you want to be in an intentional friendship? Right? That's weird.
That's not weird. No, that's not weird at all.
So here's the thing, guys. I bring it up everywhere. Every conversation I can, every group that I'm with, when I'm hiking, when I'm, anywhere I'm sitting around people, I bring it up because here's the thing. The more you talk about it, the more people are going to hear about it, the more people are going to get it, and they're not going to be afraid of it or think it's weird. So when I bring it up in group settings, I'm bringing it up for 2 reasons. One is I want to teach about it because I think all Christians, even lost people, need to spend time getting to know somebody, okay? But among Christians, we all need to be doing this, okay? But number 2, I'm looking for an intentional friendship.
Right. Okay. You want to meet somebody.
I want to meet somebody too. So by talking about it, I'm actually giving guys permission to know that I'm open to this. But here's the thing, intentional friendship. How do you start the conversation? How do you begin the conversation? Well, first of all, you just ask some general questions, and we're going to talk about that in a second, filtering questions to kind of get to know somebody.
Yeah.
But I think if the concept has been out there and you are in circles, whether it's online, which, it's a whole nother thing, but if you've been talking to them already for a little bit and you're feeling a little bit of chemistry, you're feeling like I'd like to get to know them better, asking them for coffee is to me, it's very innocent.
Yep.
At some point in time, you can bring up the topic and say, can I tell you about this cool thing that I'm doing? Tell me what you think, and then kind of see where it goes from there.
Yeah, it's really interesting. We still do dances at Bayside. But I remember initially we would say things like, don't ask for phone numbers. But the reality was there was a lot of people there and they thought, well, what if I meet somebody? I might not see him again. So we kind of changed our messaging. We wanted it to be a safe place. That was our motivation behind it. So we changed our messaging to, hey, if you meet somebody and you like somebody, or if somebody asks you for your number and you felt like you liked them, you hit it off or whatever, feel free to give them your number, or don't if you're not comfortable. But in those kinds of cases, I think traditionally what people would do is they would say, hey, we had a great time talking to you. Do you want to go out on a date? And so you might go out on a date and boom, you'd start that process. What we're talking about is if you run into somebody like that, then go to coffee, right? Start building a friendship with them. Make sure they're understanding that it's a friendship and get to know them. If you did that over and over with different people you met in different circles, hopefully they were Christians, right? We want them to be Christians because that's what God calls us to in 1 Corinthians. But you could have multiple friendships going on at the same time, and you could be building relationships, and there's not a thing wrong with that. You're not playing games. It's when you're dating a whole bunch of people and they don't know you're dating everybody that gets a little wonky. So,
well, and another thing too, it's, if at all possible, try to make it with someone local, just because it's easier. You can find out more about them. You can go to their church and go to your church. You can have some of the same circles of friends. It's just less stressful. But you guys know, if you've ever dated by long distance, it's very, very difficult. Here's a question we get asked, Dan.
Okay, go ahead.
How do you know if a guy likes you or a girl likes you or interested to even go to the next step?
Okay.
Some of us are a little rusty, Dan. It's been a long time.
I admit I'm one of those like dense guys. So, excuse me. There are guys that don't get the subtle things that you might throw their way, and there might be some ladies that also don't get it. There's this thing called flirting, and just because you might be flirting with someone doesn't mean that you want to marry them, right? But if you're interested in somebody and you look at them across the room, maybe a little longer than normal, your eyes lock, it's the subtlety. That's the key word, subtlety. Yeah. If you're staring at them through binoculars, it's no longer subtle. It's called stalking. So it's the little glances. It's, those kinds of things, a gentle touch on the arm, laughing at your jokes, even when they're not super funny. I mean, those are the kinds of things that tell you that somebody might be interested in you. And it's kind of human. It's the you know how you see the National Geographic things with the bird dances? Yeah, that's our dance, is those little subtle things that we do as humans. So go ahead, Kris, you had something.
Just so you guys know, I've had 5 intentional friendships, and I've had lots of guys that we had like a 2-hour conversation on the phone, or we had coffee, and I asked a few what I call filtering questions, and I'm going to tell you about that in just a minute. And they never made it past the first or second conversation. But I actually had 5 intentional friendships that lasted, longer than, they lasted, in one case, many months. And I learned that was too long. It's too long of a period of time. But things like, I remember, one of the guys was in my circle, like he kept getting inside of my space right here. And I was like, I stepped back and he'd move forward. I stepped back and I realized that he just really liked me. And I kind of liked him. And so I kind of went, okay, I'm thinking, and then we went back and forth. I noticed that he was liking a lot of things on my Facebook. I had one guy, my last intentional friendship, liked everything. Every picture I posted, he'd make comments, and I thought, well, either he's really weird or he likes me. And so I decided to respond back. I wrote back and said, hey, it's nice I'm glad you like my stuff. And we just started chatting. Next thing you know it, we had a discussion about intentional friendship. He heard me speak about it at his church and said, hey, I'd like to get to know you better. I'd like to try this intentional friendship. If they touch your arm or put their hand on your back, or women go, and they touch your arm. Sometimes that could be it, right, Dan?
Right. Yeah, absolutely. So people show interest in different ways. I think, it's some of the comments here are just really, really good.
What are
Jubilee said
they?
something about stating your intentions, being honest, not joking about marriage if you're not serious about marriage. And I think,
Right.
I think key communication is key, right? When everything is said and done, how we communicate with each other with honesty is important. There's always going to be those people that play games, and hopefully an intentional friendship will bring those kinds of things out so that
Yeah.
you won't end up dating somebody who's a game playing person. But
Right.
yeah,
Right.
you can kind of tell when somebody's interested, and that's when you want to start putting together those filtering questions.
Right. And here's the thing too, um, and this is something really important, you guys, because been single a long time. Well, pretty much my whole life. Uh, and not everybody you meet, you're gonna like go, oh, but yes, you get to know them. You're like, this is a really cool person. If
Yeah.
I had just gone on outer appearance or his first conversation with me, I would have never even had coffee with him. At this time, oh my goodness, that is a beautiful man. And you become the weirdo because you're following him around the room all over the place. Just breathe, just breathe and let God do what he needs to do. And I truly believe if you're praying, if you first are in the right place yourself and you're praying, I believe God will bring you together and that conversation will start. But now you kind of go, well, Kris, again, you can't just ask some guy or girl you just met. I have filtered questions. I have questions that I ask that are important to me. Now, there's a lot of questions that are very important to me, some very, very personal questions, but you can't ask them in the first 5 minutes. So for me, I ask things that's important to me. Like for me, guys got to be willing to move. When I meet you guys and you say, yeah, I live here, I have a house, my kids are here, my grandkids are here, I've already planted a garden, I'm looking for a crop. I'm probably not going to be the right person for you unless you're willing to move. And so I know right away that's probably not the right person. But on the flip side, I met one guy and he says, oh, I'm willing to go wherever. And I went, really? Well, that's kind of cool. And I'm like, he's not really my type, but he's already answered one very important question. I want to ask him another question and another question, right?
Yeah.
What was important for you and Teresa, Dan?
What was that?
What was one of the important things for you guys?
Well, I think the first thing was faith. I mean, that was the entry level. We were at a Christian function. She'd been through divorce care. She was involved in the singles ministry, and I was too. But I didn't just want somebody who was a Christian, because I actually knew God was calling me into some type of ministry. I mean, I just felt, even if it was lay ministry, I was going to be doing some kind of ministry, and I just knew that I couldn't be with somebody unless they had an interest in that. And she had a very strong interest and was already doing it. Actually, she was already serving at a high level. She had very similar parenting philosophies to me, and she had great boundaries. Like in the past, I desperately wanted somebody to desperately want me, and in a healthy way, she didn't have time for me when it was her time with her kids, right? Yeah. She had very good boundaries. So I saw all these things, and as I asked her questions about things, I saw, okay, well, she's got very similar philosophies to me.
So you're saying, hey, if you have kids and you want to make sure he's okay with kids, it probably needs to be said pretty quickly. I remember when my mom was living with me, I had to get that out right away. I go, oh, by the way, my mom lives with me and she'll probably be with me forever. And I just didn't want to waste his time or my time if that was going to be an issue. But she moved out 2 years ago. I'm free, guys. Okay. Anyway, but maybe their education is important, or, not that your job defines you, by no means, because, we're not, we don't want to get into a worldly definition, but if what you do or your education is important to you, that's going to be a question. Or if you love animals because you happen to have 10 cats, I think you need to let that person know, because I remember when I was going to be staying with different singles as I was traveling, several of you said, hey, by the way, I have cats or I have dogs. Is that okay? that was an initial filtering question, because if it wasn't, I couldn't stay there, right?
Right.
So, or here's a big one. Are you active? Just because I'm a little round does not mean I'm not active, right? I'm very active. Right. I'm not going to win, a Miss whatever contest, okay? So, but if that's important to you and you're really into athletic, that you like to run, you like to bike, it's going to be probably one of the first questions, because even skinny people don't exercise, right? And not all people that are bigger don't,
That's true.
Yeah.
Just because I'm a little thin doesn't mean I'm super fit. By the way, so what she's talking about, the filtering questions, are questions that you need to know, but that also aren't all necessarily super personal. Right. In the book, I think it's on it's page 108. We talk about kind of a progression, a superficial, a more personal, and a very personal. And that's the kind of progression you have when you're getting to know somebody as a friend, right? Yep. So I know sometimes we tend to want to shortcut it. I really like this person. I want to get to the hard questions, and let's ask each other real hard questions. And that can, if you don't know if you could trust somebody yet, you want to do that in a gradual way. That's the most healthy way to build friendships. And so, like how old are you, your birthday, those filter questions that Kris was talking about. But maybe you get to, hey, what was a really embarrassing thing that happened to you in your life? Or, what did you do as a kid? Did you have trouble sometimes? Were you a good kid? What would you consider your worst qualities, or, the things you struggle with the most? So you can see those questions get a little more personal. And I wouldn't just share that with anybody. I would share that with people I trusted.
Yeah.
So,
well, and here's the thing. Here's the big thing, guys. You ask filtering questions as those initial questions to see if you would, if there's an opportunity to have a one-on-one. I love doing filtering questions in groups. Okay. I did it the other day at the retreat. There was 6 of us sitting in a circle. I asked some filtering questions to see what responses I got from the guys. And what you're doing is you're also seeing if the ball bounces back. So if you say in a group, hey, I love to hike, and nobody says a thing, or a girl may go, I love to hike too. Well, then we should get together. See, that's how it happens, right? Positioning yourself. Or you know what? I can't, I don't exercise at all. I couldn't even get up. And I couldn't even make it the first step. Well, that's what I'm finding out. I'm asking the type of questions to create conversation, to see if the questions come back at me because somebody is also interested in what I have to say. That's that initial thing. And then you can have the more serious whatever. But here's something I want to say real quick as well, is that be really careful that we're not asking people out to dinner, or asking them to do go away for the weekend, or, go on a road trip for the, those are called dating, right? And so be really careful that we keep it more on the surface in the beginning. It's lunches and coffees and texting. Something to where you know the whole time that you're still just friends. If it gets to where you're looking at your phone every 2 seconds to see if he's texted you, you've moved past friends. And now you're in what I call almost a friendationship. And we'll talk about that in a second. The scripture here, Amos 3:3 says, do 2 walk together unless they have agreed to meet? Let that person know you're interested. Be upfront, but that you're just simply wanting to get to know them. And here's the thing too, guys. They could say no. They could say, you know what? I'm just not interested. It's okay. It hurts. Rejection hurts, but it hurts a whole lot less now than when you've already bought a ring. Okay. So I'm just telling you. And if they do flirt and you're confused because some of their body language makes it sound like they liked you and they didn't, I had that happen to me. I called the guy out on it. I called him out. I said, dude, you don't get in someone's circle. You don't touch them continuously. You don't joke and flirt with them and then go, oh, it's just being a buddy. No. That's not buddy. And it's wrong because we all want someone. And if someone does that, I'm thinking they're liking me. And I responded back and I was in his circle because I was letting him know I was interested. And then nothing came of it. And
Yeah.
I stewed in it, and I stewed in it, and I said, did I misunderstand? Did I miscommunicate? I asked my friends. They all were in agreement. This guy was flirting heavily. So I felt as a Christian sister, I needed to say something so he doesn't do this to another woman. Yeah.
Right.
Because this is new, guys, it might be confusing to the other person. So whether you call intentional friendship or not, we don't care. The point is to go slow and be intentional to learn as much as you can to see if you even want to date. And you guys know those areas, patterns that come back up. You know, you're asking questions and all of a sudden you're seeing the same kind of answers to people you dated in the past, and you know that they're not good things, and you know to stop it right then.
Yeah.
So you have to trust that the Holy Spirit talking to you, right, Dan?
That's right. You know, when this is kind of the progression I would see is, you know, you meet somebody, you set up a time to have a conversation, the next conversation, maybe a phone call. If you're going to meet someone for the first time in person, you meet them in public, you pay separately, drive separately. Again, this is not a date. It shouldn't look like a date. But, you know, I love hanging out with my same-sex friends, and these are the kinds of things we do. We go out in public. I look forward to it. We spend time together, and then we go our separate ways. But we don't hold hands or kiss. Not my same-sex friends, only my wife. So you want to set a limit, too, on how much time you're talking. So this is a common, it's a natural progression, but it's a common progression people have in their romantic relationships. They're really interested in somebody. So they go from talking, you know, every couple of days, every once in a while, or texting to 5 hours a night. And that's really what you're trying to do is you're accelerating intimacy, and you quickly bond or become very close to somebody potentially could really hurt you. So it's best to just, it's kind of like pumping the brakes. You know, you just set some times to talk throughout the week. Don't let it consume your life. Add this person, make them a priority at times in your week to connect with them. But you want to do it in a kind of a methodical way, not a all or nothing way.
Yeah. You know, Dan, I've got the t-shirt, the hat, the backpack, the sweatpants. I mean, I can't tell you how much when you get all those butterfly feelings, all that, you just feel a connection to that person because you want so bad to have someone in your life. You do get ahead of God. And if this is the person, they'll still be the person in 3 months. Okay. So because if they're listening to God and you're both listening to God, you're going to have the triangle. We talk about it. It's all throughout our study. You have a triangle in friendship, opposite sex friendship, and those you date and those you marry. You both are growing towards God and each other. Right. It's just common sense, right? So, but you got to have, put in the chat, are you good at boundaries, or do you have a hard time keeping your boundaries?
Well, while they're putting those in the chat, I'm sorry, but some of these comments are just cracking me up. Christy wrote that I'm going to need a straitjacket. I talk with my hands, swat at everyone, even though I have no intention of dating them. So there are people that just come across super friendly. I don't know, maybe you're Italian or something, but no, there's people that are like that. But the important thing is just to have a conversation so you know where they're coming from. Yeah, that's good.
Because I set out my day, you know, when I know I'm going to be around singles, I want to be married. So this is something I'm actively praying. I'm working on myself. I'm asking my friends for, you know, that are holding me accountable. People are, you know, I let them know that, hey, I started an intentional friendship with this guy or that guy. And I want my friends to say, well, tell us about him. I don't want to go, yeah, he's a good guy. Okay. Yeah, he goes to church. Well, tell us a little bit more. Oh, you know, no, I want to be able to be transparent, not break privacy, like something I've shared only with him. But I want my friends to know enough that if I feel weird that I can't share, then they're maybe not the right guy for me. Okay. Yeah. So that's the great thing about having friends. But here's the thing. You want to schedule a time to talk or to meet again. I say every 2 to 3 days. So the fourth intentional friendship I had with this guy, we are still really good friends. And so we talked Mondays and Thursdays for about an hour and a half. And we knew we were on the phone call. We didn't talk about marriage. We didn't talk about dating. We didn't talk about love and, all this. We were just simply asking each other questions. Sometimes I'd ask him a question. He'd ask the same one back. And then sometimes he had a different one. And so we were just simply getting to know each other. And it was, there wasn't a lot of pressure. And I didn't look at my phone because I knew I was going to talk to him again on Thursday. So I wasn't getting all silly and whatever if I didn't hear from him, because we didn't text in between. We set up those boundaries. And that, I think that's important. All of you are going to be a little bit different. I write and teach this content from my experience, folks. I've been in one that lasted a year. That was too long. I've been in one that we talked 5 times a day and text each other times a day. Sweetie pie, oh my God. Get a cavity, right? Too much. Grew too close too soon. And then I've had some that, because we were long distance, we went on longer than it should have because we couldn't see each other. Once we saw each other, we were like, not the one. Okay. Yeah. So that's why you need to be in person, right? But as you meet and you talk, you'll begin to be drawn to that person, depending on the answers to the questions. And this is going to affect how much more time you spend together, right? This is going to tell you whether, I really like this person. And then you got to let them, kind of know that. I mean, they'll probably know because you're still talking to them. Right, Dan?
Yeah, I like what John wrote in here. He said, yikes, it's going to be hard not to pick up the bill at an intentional friendship lunch. And I agree. If your habit is whenever you're going out with a lady, you always pay, maybe you're a nice guy. We always have those friends and, we fight over the bill and we treat each other. And there's a certain normalcy to that too. But if every time you go out with, to get to know somebody as a quote intentional friend, and you're always paying, it's kind of like dating. It is, because there is some sense in which you're not an obligation, but it implies something. And if you can avoid doing that, that's great. But I mean, if you buy someone's lunch, I do that sometimes too. So just make sure it's not something you're doing that kind of is implying that dating, and you're communicating, clearly about it. That was a great point. So I think I told you earlier what I did when I was getting to know Teresa, how we kind of chatted online and did it on Messenger. And when we, before we started dating, she would, if I was talking to her at night on the phone, like for a half hour, if it was 9 o'clock, boom, the phone got hung up. She didn't hang up on me. She goes, I gotta go. Because she was really good about going to sleep at the time she needed to go to sleep. So she went to sleep. So we had boundaries during our friendship, prior to our dating relationship. So I would just say, make sure you've got boundaries. Make sure that if you've got kid responsibilities, you're taking care of those responsibilities, work responsibilities. Like nothing in your life is suffering because you have this new friendship that you're trying to develop, which we all want to do. It's just having good boundaries.
Yeah. And here's the thing, if you're feeling like, I really want to date this person, I really do want to be exclusive, I could see this person as my spouse, but you haven't gotten all the answers to some questions that are important to you, you are afraid to ask them because you're afraid they might not be the right answer, you don't date. You ask more questions.
Yeah, you don't have to date.
Right. You go into your 4th month, go into your 5th month. But I'm just know from my experience, you'll know that they're not someone you want to have an intentional friendship or date pretty quickly. It's the ones where you're talking and you've gone a month and you're feeling a connection. And then you go into the 2nd month. And this is where you have to have what's called that DTR. That's that place where you determine the relationship. Kind of where are we? Where I'm kind of sensing that we're enjoying each other. I remember one guy that I was in one of these with, I just basically had to say, listen, I'm never going to call you. If you're interested in me, you have to pursue me. I'm worthy of the pursuit. Now, I'm not saying that if he doesn't call, I don't call him back, but I'm not going to be the one pursuing this. If you're interested in an intentional friendship, I want to know that. And so he's like, okay. And I'm like, wow, I've never said that to a guy before. Oh, again. And so it was so nice to state that, yeah, I know I'm not perfect. I know I'm not Barbie anymore. It's okay. But I'm still worthy of the pursuit because of who lives in me, which is Jesus Christ. Don't settle, y'all. Don't
Yeah.
settle. We had answered this question before with more than one person. And, here's the thing, Proverbs 21:15. What does it say, Dan?
Proverbs 21:15. I don't know. I don't have it memorized.
The
plans of the diligent lead to plenty, but those of everyone who is hasty surely to poverty. So if you're planning something, it'll lead to prosperity. If you're not, you're in trouble. That's true of relationships too.
Yeah. You're just taking the extra time to ensure, but here's the thing, guys, if you are in an intentional friendship with someone and you've gone, 3 months, and at the 3-month mark, you're like, I'm just, I don't really, well, then stop. You can stop, and wait and see if after not talking to them, you're like, no, I really do like them. Let me just tell you, the ones that ended for me, 2 of them was really hard. One of them, I got my heart shattered in a million pieces. It is what it is.
Yeah.
But once I learned how to do it right, one that broke, we ended it. I was hurt for like a day because we not got emotionally connected. We just simply were getting to know each other. The last one that I was in, I kind of just missed talking to him. I like talking to him. And I was kind of like, oh my gosh, we talked, a couple times a week, and I look forward to talking to him. But the reason we were talking is to date, and we didn't want to date. So why are we talking? So we just stopped. And we're still friends on Facebook. We still chat here and there, but we're not intentionally chatting because the reality is I only got so many hours in the day. Where do I want to give those hours into who?
Right.
And so I hoard my personal time because if I have coffee with you, if I have lunch with you, if I'm on the phone with you, it is because I believe God wants me to, because it's just limited amount of time that I have. And so I want to invest where God wants me to invest. And so that's the great thing about that scripture. Now,
I think hasn't having an intentional friendship mindset helped you in more clearly communicating what the relationship really is, right? Sometimes, now I know this has happened in singles ministry because I was a singles pastor for years, and I had people come to my office and they would say, I think so-and-so likes me, and well, explain me what's your relationship like. Well, we go out on, Friday night to the movies, and he's come over and seen my kids, and you went to the Little League game, and I'm going, yeah, you're dating. And then I talked to the guy later, and oh no, we're not dating. We're just friends. I'm thinking, are you sure you're friends? Because it doesn't seem like it to her or anyone else. And what is that called, Kris?
Friendationship. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a friendationship.
So here's the thing. Part of it also. So I was in I thought an intentional friendship with a guy. Now, here's the thing. Some of you guys know this. Everything that happens to me, bad and good, is not wasted. Every tear is not wasted. I know that everything I go through is for the purpose of helping somebody else. It's to grow the kingdom. Even when I'm going through it and I think my heart is going to rip out of my chest, I know that God is going to use it because he trusts me with the pain that I go through. He wants us all to trust him with our pain and our disappointment.
Yeah.
Because he wants us to use it. Okay. So I was going through this and I had Dan meet this guy because I wanted accountability. And so I know what this guy and I are talking about. I know the conversations. I know the texting. And when this guy went to meet Dan, what did he say to you, Dan?
He said, we're friends. And I thought, well, I said, make sure you communicate that to her, because I think she thinks it's a little more serious than that. Oh, okay. So he was telling me or who knows who else one thing, and he was telling and acting with Kris a different way.
Yeah.
And it was a friendationship.
Yeah. And so I don't even know if it was a friendationship. I just think that one was a betrayal. I think that was that was a person who was narcissistic and so on and so forth. Because I missed things. I missed all those. There was blind spots. There was red flags, yellow flags, jumping up and down,
There was flags literally on fire.
On fire. But because there's a check mark, okay? there's a little check mark beside their name for the things that you think are important. For me, those were good enough, and I ignored all the other ones because I too wanted someone in my life. So there are those types of relationships where you're thinking you're one place and they're in another place, and you really have your heart invested, and they know your heart's invested. And so, but you're making plans as if you're going to be together. That's a little bit different than a friendationship. A friendationship is where literally let's just say because I was in one. And I got this term from a friend of mine. She was a singer. We know Lisa Anderson with Focus on the Family. She also calls it friendlationship. It's just basically, it's somewhere between a friendship and a dating relationship where you're thinking you're dating, or you're hoping they think that you're the one, and they are not thinking you're the one. So you do things for them. You cook for them. You clean for them. Or guys, you're fixing things at her house every 2 seconds because she asked you. And you're hoping that you see that you're the one. You're hoping they're going to turn and go, Kris, you complete me. Right? And you wait, and you keep doing things for them, and you keep cooking and watching their dog. And in my case, I even went through 7 relationships with this guy with other women. And each time I knew I'm the one. And this went on for years and years. And so some of you have been in that where you have this huge crush, but it's more than a crush. You truly believe God brought that person for you, but yet they're either doesn't get it. They take your attention as just something that a good buddy does, or they know you like them and they're taking advantage of you. They're not guarding your heart. They're not guarding their heart or yours. And that's cruel.
Yeah.
But
I appreciate.
Go ahead.
I was just thinking, I appreciate you sharing that. And that is, like Randy said, appreciate your vulnerability. It's hard everybody knows what it's like to want love. And when you feel like you have it, I think it's incumbent on you, if you're in a relationship with somebody, and I know there's people that have done this, and maybe it's just, you're not really thinking it all the way through, but you're thinking, well, they're nice and everything. Maybe I could end up with them, but you're also kind of keeping your eye out. This person almost becomes a placeholder so that you can get the benefits of a dating relationship while you're looking for the actual person you want to be with. And there's no other way to say it. It's using someone. And so those are the kinds of things that don't really honor God, and they don't honor the other people in the relationship. So we want to make sure that we are communicating clearly what this relationship is. So if it becomes a dating relationship, then that's what it is. And both people know we're committed to this. Now, intentional relationships, yes, you can have more than one, but a dating relationship, now we're exclusive. We're getting to know each other in that context. So,
and here's the thing too. The whole time I was in this friendationship with this guy, I didn't go after anybody else. I was interested. I kept thinking this guy was going to turn, because we knew each other's families. We were there for each other's when our dads died. We were supportive. He was my best friend. I would have taken a bullet for this guy. And the whole time, he just simply didn't feel that way. And I from his behavior, it was inconsistent. That's kind of where we are, guys. We just wear our hearts on our sleeves, and we just don't really protect ourselves. And it was clearly not going to be a dating relationship, but because he met some of my needs and I met some of his needs, we never went beyond that. And so praise God, I did finally move on, and he's now married, and we're still friends on Facebook. He and my mom have a friendship, which is kind of weird. And I'm over the pain, because I had to take ownership of some of that, Dan. I probably knew way in the beginning that it wasn't, but you just keep waiting, and because you get pulled into these movies. And so part of it is ownership of my part. Talk about this in the book in more detail about friendationship, and we also talk about companionship. And companionship is where you typically, it's older people that do this, older singles, but you own a house, he owns a house, you like your vacations the way you like yours, you like your holidays. I've got my money, you've got your money, so I'm not going to marry you because I might lose my money. So instead, we're just going to be together where people think we're a couple because we're acting like a couple. It looks like we're dating. Some of you may be even having sex. I don't know, but definitely people think you're together, but you have no intentions of ever getting married and you're not trusting God. You're worried about your finances. Then are you worried about your finances because he might take them? Then he's probably not the right guy. Are you worried about finances because you're not trusting God that he owns everything? So
that's good.
Way more detail in the book, and we definitely encourage you to get this book if you do not have this study. But Dan,
we've got some great questions.
Oh, give me some questions then.
We got some great questions coming in. Heather Grubb says, any advice how to kindly yet firmly respond to someone that continues to call or message after you've communicated your boundaries and determined you're not a match? So without knowing much more than what you've said, Heather, I'm thinking it could be that you dated a while. If you didn't date at all, hardly, then it might be a little clearer, like, I'm not sure what you're not getting. We're not dating, we're not a thing. But if you did date a while, one of the things that I talked about at the retreat that's true is we do bond with each other. It's just kind of how God made us, right? He made us to be able to love each other and feel connected. So he may still feel connected. If you dated for a while, it might be that you need to kind of cut off all contact.
No friend on Facebook anymore, right? No friends.
Well, I'm not saying block him. I'm just saying, though, don't talk to him. Don't text with him. And it's not to be mean. Make sure you clarify it with him. But if he's having a hard time, it could be sometimes that he's got this hope, this that rises up, like the Jim Carrey in the movie Dumb and Dumber. What are our chances? 1 in a million. So you're saying we have a chance. So some people, they hold on to that and think that, oh, maybe I'll get through. So I think it's just, you need to nicely say, hey, I care about you as a person that just, I know we'll never be more than just friends, and I don't want to hurt you. Is being around me or if you're in the same ministry or church, is it hurting you? And if it is, then maybe you need to cut off all contact. So I think just need to be very, very clear, though.
Here's another suggestion too that I would do. If it's somebody that you haven't really dated, or that just likes you or has said they like you, and they keep, their goal is to wear you down. Eventually you're going to turn, like a friendationship. You're going to turn and go, yeah, you're the one.
Yeah.
I would bring a friend along to have a conversation.
Right. Yeah.
So now they know you've shared it with somebody, and now they're also saying, look, she's not interested. It's really not healthy. And then if it goes beyond that, you got to go to the pastor, and you can get your church involved, and and we hope it wouldn't get that far, but I've been on staff at churches. We've had to intercede sometimes because we've had men and women that really were obsessed to the point of stalking, and it became very uncomfortable. And so we definitely want to protect each other. Yeah,
for sure. And that's good advice, because sadly, every once in a while, somebody is unhealthy and they connect with us, and then it leads to just some weirdness, which is hard.
Any other questions came in?
Somebody was talking about boundaries being important. Yeah, if you have any questions, put them in the chat and we can answer them. I did want to talk a little bit more about the bonding thing.
Okay.
I think that's the feelings of love that a lot of people feel sometimes, is when you really care about somebody romantically, you get the butterflies. And it's just how God made us to care about other people and connect with other people. But sadly, sometimes we are feeling that with somebody that's not feeling that with us. And so you might think that building a friendship first might extinguish that ability, but it's not true. Like, even if you kind of got the butterflies at first and you build the friendship and maybe they die down again, they can build up again. If they're the right person, they can build up again. So don't be fooled about your feelings. Just keep them in check. Listen to them. It's fun. We all like feeling good about somebody, but just realize that's not the full truth of everything. Is how you feel about something in any given moment.
Dan, being around you and Teresa, last year it took about a month for us to complete the videos. For those of you who are watching, we have videos for each of the chapters, little short videos. And so I will tell you that Dan and Teresa have been married now a while, and that emotion has not left them.
No.
that kind of love and that craziness, that flirtiness. I mean, it is there. And even with my mom and my stepdad, they were married for 31 years. Literally right before he passed away, there was such energy and flirtation and fun. And my mom said she still got butterflies every day when he would put his arm around her. So I think that's something, and again, you both grow when you both grow towards God and each other. God will keep that going for you. And if you don't think it's going to happen, then I would wonder if it's the right person. So again, it's going back to that trusting God. You know, any other questions come in before we?
Manuel has a question. How long should you date someone before you decide to marry them? How many seasons? And that's a great question, Manuel. The bottom line is you need to go as long as it takes to really get to know somebody. I'd recommend at least 4 seasons a year. But usually what happens is you'll see them in different contexts, different people, different holidays. It's funny. You might not think it's a big deal. You meet someone in February and by the fall you're in love, you know you should be together forever. And then you go through a Christmas with them and you go, oh my gosh, I didn't realize we were going to have to be at a Christmas. Do we have to do this every year, this Christmas party with your parents and your uncle, their crazy aunt, whatever, you know? It's just, when you go through all the seasons, you begin to see kind of the full scope of someone's life. And it gives you time to get to know each other, ask questions, and also see if their life reflects the things they say they are. Because we have blind spots. We talk about it in the book. And sometimes our blind spots come out during that year. It doesn't mean you shouldn't be together, but it often brings up things we need to talk about before we get married. So,
because we get kind of stupid, you know, we get all silly and googly and whatever, and we miss things, and we need those people around us. And, you know, when you get older, a lot of you have children and grandchildren. And so you have to take all that into context, how you spend holidays. You know, I have always been at my mom's and my dad, my whole life. The thought that I would have to pick somebody else's house every other year type thing, that would be so weird. Or, you know, maybe your kids, you know, you send your kids off to camp every summer and it costs you $2,000 to send them off. And he's just like, what? You spend how much? Listen, hey, we'll get a garden hose and a couple buckets and then we'll have a little pool party in the backyard. You know, you don't know, right? So it's being able to go through some of this and see how people react in the winter versus the summer and how they spend their money and how they handle conflict. All of that takes time. And so we're going to rule police on that. But I can tell you, if you've got people around you that love Jesus, and they're your accountability and they're talking to you, they're going to let you know, hey, I think you're going a little fast, or hey, you're going a little slow, or I've noticed something, you know. And so I want to include those people. Now, private information that person has shared with you, you know, you may not be going to tell your friends because that would be a privacy, or maybe you have a counselor. But I definitely think having people who can see what you can't see, like in a blind spot of a car, is really, really good, especially if they're probably not the right person. And that's really hard, because what we do is we have a tendency to tell people only what we want them to hear, so they'll tell us to keep going, when we really need to tell them what they need to hear, and they might say slow down or stop.
Yep. Karen Percy has brilliant advice. You want to make sure you see somebody in a giant traffic jam, a restaurant that burns your food, and when your car breaks down. Those are 3 good clues as to a person's
so when the washing machine breaks, the air conditioning breaks, you know, whatever. I love, Karen, you and I were talking the other night, and we were talking about independence, and, you know, when you've been a single a long time, you're really, really independent, and you're just so used to doing everything yourself. And, you know, and if you find like you can't ever let anybody help you, that would be something to be, you know, learned about. But I loved how you shared how it was a gazillion degrees, your air conditioner broken, and your mom's like, hey, you know, you can come stay with me for a couple of days. And you didn't even think about that, because we've gotten so used to being alone, so used to doing everything ourselves. That's hard to change. But here's the key in a friendship, intentional dating. If you're become aware of these areas that are not necessarily good, but you're willing to change. You know, in that intentional friendship, he brings up, like, you know, you really are hard-headed. You're really stubborn. I am? Yeah. Or, you know, you never let me talk. Really? I'm sorry. well, I need to Dan does it to me all the time because I can talk and talk and talk. No. So Dan, I know that I have to sometimes stop and be quiet so that he can talk. So having those people in our life, those even the romantic ones, to be able to say, to call out those things about yourself, because how you respond is going to tell you whether you want to move forward, right, Dan?
Yep, it is. I'm going to go back to Manuel's question, and I'm going to answer Nicole's question. I was just thinking about something, Manuel, about the 4 seasons. You know, it's interesting when you're in love with a narcissist. Usually, what will happen is you will think this is too good to be true, and it usually is. So, like if something is so amazingly awesome, and you think, oh man, I want to close the deal on this relationship, like put a ring on her finger or whatever. It could be that there's emotional problems, because usually someone can handle, going at a certain pace. They don't have to rush things. And so taking your time is good for more than just one reason, to get to know them. Now, Nicole asked a good question. So okay. I'd love to hear the story of this, but is it possible to have an intentional relationship with somebody you dated in the past? And it brings up some questions in my mind. So if you dated them, was it like when you were in college and several years have passed, or was it?
And why did you break up?
Yeah, or did you break up? Or what happened? Sometimes in life there's timing issues, right? It's just like you meet somebody and it's just not the right time. And if you feel like they're the good quality people, but man, you want to give it a second try, I'd say that's probably brilliant. Have an intentional friendship with them,
Right. And ask those additional questions, because maybe their kids were still in school and that was a stress factor in your relationship, and now they're gone. Or maybe they weren't far enough in their walk with God, but you've seen them really grow. Whereas before you're like, I can't date this person. They don't get, we're not having sex outside of marriage. But now they're like, oh no, I would never do that. Or all those things. I think that would be great. Yeah.
So that's a good question. And she was asking for a friend. So we get that, but tell your friend you got the answer. Any other questions you guys have? Fire them in there. One of the things while we're waiting for questions to come in here, that I want to say, I don't remember if you mentioned or not, but what you should have in place when you're doing an intentional friendship is accountability. Did you talk about accountability?
Yep, we talked about it. We talked about those friends, those people that you tell them about this person, so they can, ask you some questions back. So if you say stuff like, he doesn't have a job right now because he's looking to find himself. Okay, why does he not have a job? Did it go away because of COVID, or did it go away because he's a bum?
Yes.
He can't keep a job. Or, he's just, when he gets his finances together, when he gets his debt paid off, then we're going to probably date. What kind of debt? Where'd it come from? From being in the hospital, or because he can't control his spending or her spending? So I really value my friends because they see things, they know me. They know the mistakes I've made. They know how I get ahead of God. And I love that they're willing to say, Kris, I don't think this is a good person for you.
Yep, that's good. Tracy said that it's a good question to ask is, how's their relationship with God, and then watch how they treat people.
Yep.
Isn't that good, right? Because we know the greatest commandment, love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength, and love your neighbor as yourself, are linked. So hard to love other people if you don't love God.
One of my filtering questions, it's really a filtering an action, is that you tip well. So, if we go to a restaurant, understand the waitress has to come back. So one is you can ask a waitress, how can I pray for you? Or waiter. That's the first step. But I want to make sure, if you're going to share your faith with someone, if you're going to utilize that as a time for them to know you love Jesus, then you need to leave a big tip, because it's not about the money. It's about, what your character. I mean, you're telling them you love God, inviting them to church, but then you leave them $1. So I look to see if he's a really good tipper. And if that's a doorway that he uses to reach people for the Lord. I'm also looking for a guy that's willing to share his faith. And he doesn't have to be, Billy Graham, but if he, it's private, my faith is private, I don't share it. For me, that's a deal breaker. I probably won't even have a second conversation with you.
Yeah, that's good.
So
Let's see if we got any other questions. What's interesting about accountability is when you're in a romantic relationship. So let's say this moves to a romantic relationship and it doesn't work out, or if you've had romantic relationships in the past that didn't work out, do you know why? Did you get the "it's not you, it's me"? Because usually that could be true to a certain extent, but usually there is something about the relationship that we should know why it didn't work out. Yeah. And if you're kind of unsure, that's a good place to go, is your accountability friends. It's better to learn when you're not dating, than while you're dating.
That kind of leads to, so let's say you're in an intentional friendship with someone 2 months or 3 months, whatever, and you're kind of going, I don't really see this person as someone that I want to date. That part of that is to also find out why. Now, if they say, like I've got a great example. One of them is in the book. He said I could use his real name, but I haven't. He's super nice. So we had an intentional friendship for 3 months. Part of our challenge was we didn't live in the same state. So I think it probably would have ended sooner, but I didn't see him for a while. And so I remember him saying to me, Kris, I've realized that if I'm going to date, it's going to take a lot of work because I see already how much it's taking now, just as your friend, he said. And he said, I've just now met my daughter in life. They've been away from me for a while because of my ex and all this stuff. And he goes, I've really grown in my walk with God. I've grown stronger. I've stood up for myself. And now my daughters are grown and they want to be in my life. And I can't give them that time. And also you. And so I was hurt for like a second. Okay. Because one, what a cool thing. Number two, my birth father abandoned me, never came back. So how can I get upset? Now, do I wish he kind of said it sooner than 3 months? But that's just where he was. We were enjoying our time talking, but we did come to that place of like, so we got to see each other and we got in each other's bubble and he held my hand and I'm all googly thinking, oh my gosh, we're going to date now. And then 2 days later he goes, I can't do this. And I was hurt for like a day, really was. And so because I had not gotten ahead of God and I got emotional, but later on I found out a few other things. And so what was interesting was some of the things I found out were things I can't change. They're who they make me to be. And so some men that I meet are very big nesters. They want to stay home, sit in a rocking chair for the rest of their life. And I'm just not that kind of person. So that wasn't something I'm going to change. But on the flip side, there were some things that were said that I was like, okay, you're right. I probably need to work on that. And so I love that I found out those things so I can be a better friend.
Yeah. There's a quote in here, or a question in here from Peter: intentional relationships or dating in a singles community. So intentional friendships, I think he meant, or dating in a singles community of friends, thoughts. I would say, if anything, it makes it less weird to have the intentional friendships than it is if you're going dating, stop dating, dating, stop dating, dating, stop dating, right? There's a sense in which, and I know the singles community at Bayside is kind of like this, where you can hang out with different circles of people at people's houses and small groups on Thursday nights at some of the events. So you have a chance to really do the intentional friendship kind of thing where you're asking questions, a little more serious questions, and getting to know people. And go ahead, Kris.
Well, I just like it when you're in a group and you can be intentional about asking questions in a group versus what's your favorite color? What's your favorite flavor of ice cream?
Yeah.
I like it when Christian singles get together and the conversation gets a little deeper so you can hear some of the answers that they're saying,
Yeah, Emmanuel says, is it necessary to have chemistry in your relationship? I think what he means is like attraction. I at some point, if you want to be romantically with somebody, there has to be some level of attraction. And if there's not, I'm not sure why. Sometimes people are attracted to certain kinds of people, but I would say this. One of the things people make mistakes of, I think, is they discount somebody because maybe they look at them and they say, oh, that's not the kind of person I want to be with or whatever. And they don't even give them a chance to get to know them as a friend.
Right.
when that person may have such incredible characters, such amazing qualities, you might find you actually begin to have feelings for them because of how amazing they are. So I would say don't write off somebody just because you don't have initial fuzzies, but at some point you would have to, if you wanted to be, romantically involved with somebody.
So I've got a great story with that. Okay. So when I was,
you have 1 minute.
I was in my late 20s. I was friends with this guy. He was really skinny. He was absent-minded. He was like all over the place. And I was just like, we hung out. We got to know each other. We went on hikes together, went coffee together, all this. And all of a sudden I was like, he is good looking. And I realized that I had fallen in like with him from the inside out versus the outside in. And so that is something that I've always desired the rest of my life. It's like, I don't want to assume because there's not that initial thing on the outside that God can't change that. Because as I get to know them in Christ, all of a sudden, that's what attracts me. That's the chemistry. It's both of us as believers. Because the reality is, guys, the outside's going to change. And if your relationship is only based on the outside, not that that's not some level important, but our outsides are going to change. And that can't be a deep enough, that's not a deep enough foundational root for your relationship,
That's right. It's 8:30, you guys, and I don't know if they're going to let us go much longer, but I do want to say we're going to have, I don't know when, but I'm working on it behind the scenes, at least a intentional relationships small group, potentially something more. I don't know yet, but we're going to have it at Bayside Church, potentially more than one campus. So be looking for that. And can I close in prayer for you guys? I want to thank you for joining tonight. I really appreciate it. Love you guys so much. And we're going to pray this out. Heavenly Father, God, we thank you so much that you created us for relationship. And Lord, we know that you created marriage as well. And some of the people on this call right now, you have a desire to place them with somebody else. Some people on this call, maybe you want to work in their hearts a little more. Maybe there's some junk and some past things or boundary issues that need to be resolved. And if that's the case, God, I just pray you'd be working in their lives right now. Help them to know how much you love them and are for them, and even grieve for their pain and their loss. And so, God, we just pray you'd keep the enemy from discouraging anyone on this call. God, they have incredible value. You have created them with value. Jesus died for them, showing them their value. And Lord, we know you have a desire to give them, as Jesus said, the abundant life. So we just pray that you would grant them that. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you all so much.
Yes. And hey, guys, real quick too, if you get to a place where it's time to stop, you can still be friends. I'm out of all the 4 of them, I'm still on Facebook with as friends. Okay.
Yes.
At the same time, if it's like, hey, you know what, I think get this person, and Peter, I think you'll get this. We're bad as Christians. We see 2 people together. We've already, started planning their wedding for them. Just because you're with somebody and you're sitting beside them in church does not mean you're going to marry them. But here's the thing. A lot of us, the reason why that's uncomfortable is because we did get ahead of God. But if you build that intentional friendship and you both get to a place to where you're like, I think I want to date this person, you're dating because you think they could be your spouse. So then at that point in time, people are going to probably say those things, because if you're doing it like a Christian, then it should be intentionally, intentional steps. So have fun. I'd love to hear from you guys. If you guys have been in intentional friendships, we'd love to hear the good, the bad, the ugly, what worked, what didn't work, because we're always wanting to improve the message that God has given us, and we don't know it all. So we'd love to hear from you. Right, Dan?
Amen. Thank you guys so much for joining us tonight. God bless.
Bye.